Have you ever felt like your past has a grip on your future? Like no matter how hard you try to move forward, something always pulls you back. It's as if every mistake, every failure, every painful memory is etched into your identity, shaping your choices, limiting your confidence, and clouding your vision. You're not alone in feeling that way. So many people wake up each day carrying invisible baggage, labels, regrets, traumas, decisions they wish they could undo. And even when a new opportunity appears, there's a voice inside that whispers, "You failed before. What makes this time different?" That voice isn't truth, it's fear, dressed in the disguise of memory. Imagine standing in front of a mirror that doesn't just reflect your face, but also flashes every moment you've struggled, been rejected, doubted yourself, or fallen short. Now imagine believing that this mirror is telling you who you really are. That's the trap. That's how the past becomes a prison. But what if that mirror is broken? What if it only shows fragments? What if you've been looking at a distorted reflection all along? The reality is this: your past is a chapter, not the entire book. It's not the definition of your worth, your potential, or your destiny. Too many people build their lives around what has been, not what could be. They accept limitations that no longer belong to them. They rehearse old wounds instead of writing new victories. But somewhere deep inside, there's a part of you that knows this isn't the end. There's more to you than your history. There's more waiting for you beyond your fears. And when you choose to let go of the past, even just a little, you open the door to something extraordinary. Your future isn't behind you, it's ahead, and it's yours to create. Every person walks through life carrying a story, one shaped by experiences, decisions, memories, and emotions. These stories begin in childhood, are colored by the people we meet, the chances we take, and the moments we regret. Over time, the story begins to feel permanent, like the chapters have already been written. For many, the past becomes not just a memory, but a silent architect of identity. We look at our past failures and assume they define our abilities. We remember our heartbreaks and convince ourselves that love isn't safe. We recall missed opportunities and start to believe we're too late, too far behind, or too broken to begin again. All this mindset becomes more than a perspective, it becomes a barrier. It stops us from dreaming boldly, from stepping into unknown possibilities, from becoming who we truly are. We start labeling ourselves, not good enough, not lucky enough, not smart enough. These labels aren't facts, they're interpretations, stories we've repeated so often that they feel like truth. And yet when you look deeper, you begin to realize something crucial. The past only has power if we keep feeding it. The human mind is remarkable. It can remember pain vividly, hold on to guilt endlessly, and replay past events in loops that stretch across years. But it also has the power to reframe, to rebuild, to renew. Change doesn't come from erasing the past. It comes from shifting how we relate to it. A mistake isn't the end of growth, it's a lesson. A failure isn't proof of inadequacy, it's feedback. Even deep wounds can become sources of strength when seen through a new lens. There is something freeing in knowing that your story isn't finished, that no matter what's come before, mistakes, loss, disappointment, it doesn't have to dictate what comes next. The truth is, the future is untouched. It's a blank canvas, and the brush is in your hands. Whether you've fallen 1,000 times or just lost your way once, you can start again. You can rewrite your beliefs, reignite your drive, and realign with the person you were always meant to be. Life isn't waiting for a perfect version of you, it's waiting for the real one, the one willing to show up despite the past and move forward with intention. There is no destiny set in stone, only the choices you make from here. One of the greatest challenges people face isn't the external obstacles that appear in life, it's the internal ones they carry with them every day. While circumstances can change, jobs can be lost or found, and relationships can start or end, what truly limits progress is the belief that the past holds absolute power over what's possible next. When individuals begin to define themselves by what went wrong, by who hurt them, by the opportunities they missed, or by the failures they've experienced, they unintentionally build walls around their potential. The problem doesn't lie in having a painful or imperfect past. The problem lies in allowing that past to shape one's sense of identity. Over time, certain patterns emerge. A person who was told they weren't smart enough stops raising their hand. Someone who was abandoned stops trusting others. An individual who failed in business stops taking risks. These patterns are not conscious choices. They're the survival responses of someone trying to avoid more pain. But in avoiding pain, they also avoid growth. They trade freedom for familiarity. And slowly, without realizing it, they begin to live the same day, the same story, over and over again, convinced that change isn't possible for them. What makes this challenge even more complex is how subtle it can be. Most people don't walk around saying, I can't succeed because of my past. Instead, it shows up as hesitation, procrastination, fear of judgment, or playing small. It appears in the form of excuses that feel logical, but are really rooted in fear. It's not the right time. Maybe I'm just not meant for more. People like me don't succeed in that world. These are not statements of fact. They are reflections of past experiences interpreted as lifelong truths. The deeper issue is that when people allow the past to become a permanent narrative, they begin to live reactively instead of creatively. They respond to life rather than shape it. They stop dreaming, stop reaching, and eventually stop believing. And yet, this challenge isn't irreversible. It begins with awareness. The moment someone realizes that the voice of doubt isn't their destiny, that their patterns can be rewritten, and that they have a choice in how they move forward, is the moment the tide begins to shift. But until then, the problem remains. People living lives far smaller than they're capable of, not because they've mistaken their past for their potential. The moment we begin to question the authority of our past is the moment growth begins. It starts with a subtle shift, a curiosity that maybe, just maybe, things don't have to remain as they've always been. What if the things you've believed about yourself weren't facts but interpretations? What if the pain you experienced was real, but the meaning you assigned to it was never permanent? This kind of inquiry opens a door to transformation, because when people start to examine the roots of their limitations, they often find that much of what holds them back is built on outdated beliefs. Growth doesn't come from ignoring the past or pretending it never happened. It comes from confronting it honestly, understanding its influence, and then choosing differently. Many of the most powerful personal changes don't happen in giant leaps, but in consistent small moments where a person decides to take back authorship of their life. Instead of saying, I've always done it this way, they begin asking, is there a better way? That question alone changes everything. It implies choice. It implies freedom. The process of development requires courage. It means letting go of old narratives, which, while painful, have also felt safe and familiar. It means stepping into unknown territory where there are no guarantees, only possibilities. And it means being willing to face the fear of failure again, this time with a new mindset, that failure is not the enemy, but a teacher. As people embrace this idea, their relationship to risk changes. They begin to understand that trying and failing is far better than staying still and wondering. In this phase, reflection is crucial. By examining what patterns have repeated in their lives, whether in relationships, finances, self-worth, or health, individuals can begin to trace the internal storylines that drive their actions. From there, they can rewrite them. A belief like, I'm not good enough, can become, I am capable of growth. A thought like, I always mess things up, can transform into, I learn and get stronger each time. These are not just affirmations, they are tools for reshaping identity. True development doesn't erase the past, it reclaims it. It takes what was painful and finds meaning in it. It turns scars into symbols of resilience. And slowly, the past loses its grip, not because it's forgotten, but because it's been redefined. That's the heart of change. Not becoming someone else, but becoming more of who you were always meant to be. There comes a moment in every journey of change when the mirror is no longer enough. When all the reflection, all the questioning, all the inner work builds to a single decision point. Will you continue to live by the script written by your past, or will you write a new one with your own hands? This is the breaking point, the fork in the road where comfort collides with truth. It doesn't always come loudly. Sometimes it arrives in quiet clarity, a whisper inside that says, I'm done living like this. Other times it comes through a storm, loss, frustration, or a breakdown that finally shatters the illusion of control. In this moment, everything feels raw. The excuses no longer hold weight. The stories you've told yourself begin to sound hollow. And for the first time, you see that your pain wasn't a wall, it was a door. The key was never missing. It was just buried beneath fear, doubt, and years of accepting less than you deserved. Real change is born here. Not in theory, not in intention, but in the decision to act differently. This decision may not bring instant transformation, but it shifts the foundation. You begin showing up in new ways, more honest, more present, more willing to risk. You speak your truth, even if your voice shakes. You take a step forward, even if the path is unclear. And each step becomes a declaration. I am not my past. I am who I choose to become. Often, the most defining moments are not marked by applause or recognition, but by quiet bravery. Walking away from what no longer serves you, saying no when it would be easier to say yes, standing up for your future when your past begs you to sit back down. This is where identity begins to shift. You no longer react the way you used to. You stop accepting what once felt normal. You realize that surviving is no longer enough. You want to thrive. The key moment isn't the change itself, but the decision to change. It's not the absence of fear, but the courage to move forward despite it. It's the reclaiming of your power, not from the world, but from the version of yourself that believed you were limited. And once that shift happens, there's no going back. Because once you've glimpsed who you could be, remaining who you were is no longer an option. Looking back doesn't have to mean being pulled backward. The past, with all its weight and wounds, may have shaped the person you were, but it doesn't have to shape who you become. The truth is, everyone carries stories, some filled with pain, others with regret, and many with moments they wish they could erase. But growth begins when you realize those moments aren't definitions. They're experiences. They don't have to change you. They can teach you. And when you allow them to serve as stepping stones rather than stumbling blocks, the journey forward becomes possible. It's easy to believe that history repeats itself because of some fixed fate. But in reality, repetition often comes from recycled beliefs and unconscious choices. When those beliefs go unchallenged, they guide every action, every fear, every hesitation. But once you bring awareness to them, once you confront the stories you've accepted as absolute, you gain the power to break the cycle. This is how real transformation begins, not in denying your past, but in refusing to let it dictate your path forward. Many people wait for a sign or a perfect moment to begin again, but the truth is, the invitation to change is always available. It begins in your mindset, in the questions you ask yourself, and in the willingness to let go of who you think you have to be based on what you've been through. Life is constantly offering a clean slate, not because the past disappears, but because the future is still unwritten. You are not broken. You are not too late. You are not limited by what happened to you or by what you once believed about yourself. You are capable of choosing differently, thinking differently, and living differently. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed, how many detours you've taken, or how deeply you've doubted yourself. What matters is what you decide now. Because this moment, this one, is yours. The past has had its time. It has said what it needed to say. It taught you, tested you, and maybe even humbled you. But now the pen is back in your hand. And as long as you keep writing, keep choosing, and keep believing, the next chapters can be filled with growth, strength, healing, and purpose. You are not the sum of your history. You are the creator of what comes next. Now is the time to choose yourself, not tomorrow, not next year, not when things settle down or when you feel perfectly ready. Right now. You've carried the weight of your past long enough. You've lived under the shadow of old beliefs, missed chances, and the opinions of others for too long. The power to move forward, to build something new, to reclaim your confidence, it already lives within you. But it needs a decision, a commitment, a first step. Start small if you must. Start silently, but start. Write down the beliefs that have held you back and question them. Ask yourself where they came from, and more importantly, whether they still serve you. Choose one habit, one mindset, one action that reflects the future you want, not the past you're leaving behind. Maybe it's speaking up when you normally stay quiet. Maybe it's applying for the opportunity you've been too afraid to chase. Maybe it's simply waking up tomorrow and reminding yourself, I am not my past. I am who I choose to become. Change doesn't require perfection. It requires movement. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take the next honest step toward the life you deserve. Progress compounds. One decision leads to another. One brave act becomes a new pattern. And over time, the old story fades, replaced by one that's written with purpose and self-respect. This is your moment to act. Not because something outside of you demands it, but because something inside of you is ready. Ready to break the cycle, ready to outgrow limitation, ready to become the person who no longer looks back with regret, but moves forward with conviction. Let go of the belief that change is for someone else. You are not the exception. You are not disqualified by your mistakes. You are powerful enough to rise, and it begins with action. Your story is waiting. So turn the page, say yes to your future, say yes to your growth, say yes to your life.